All right, welcome back. It's still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to kickstart our conversation, let's see this background report on dealing with the challenges of flood put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
10 states in Nigeria are already experiencing flooding, with people being affected also. But what is causing these floods? Heavy rainfall, poor drainage systems, and climate change are all playing a role. Nigeria's geography also makes it prone to flooding. Over 100,000 people have been displaced, and many more are affected. Relief camps are providing shelter, food, and medical care, but it is a big challenge. The economic impact is also significant. Farmlands have been submerged and destroyed. Crops have been washed away and infrastructure damaged. Estimated losses are in the billions of naira. The government has deployed emergency response, provided relief materials, and set up a flood relief fund. But key players say more needs to be done to address the root causes of flooding and support affected communities. So, what is next? Join us as our guests discuss the urgent need for a comprehensive flood management plan in Nigeria. They will share insights on how to mitigate the devastating impact of flooding and explore a multifaceted approach to reduce risks, support affected communities, and build resilience for the future.
Ibrahim Hamidu, thank you very much for that report. Now let's begin the conversation by introducing first here in the studio, Pastor Femi Bejide, Director Operational Hydrology, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NISA. It's a pleasure to welcome you.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right. I've also been joined here in the studio by Idris Abubakar Mohammed, Special Assistant to the Director General, National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, still joining us for the conversation we have with us, Dr. Nura Ibrahim, the Commissioner for Environment, Jigawa State. Many thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's a pleasure having me around this time.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen, for being our guests this morning. Let me begin with Pastor Bejide. Why does it seem that the Nigerian flooding crisis won't go away? Every year we must talk about flooding and indeed talk about casualties, victims, whatever you want to call it. What do we need to do to address it permanently?
Thank you very much. The issue of flooding, number one, what I will say is about perspective. Perspective in the sense that people see flooding as something that is bad and evil. But will I say flooding is a good natural disaster in the sense that there are so much benefits we can derive from flooding if it's properly, mitigated. What is flooding? Flooding is just excess water. Excess water. So there are things that are needed to be done, and if it's put in place, like channelization, we have so many. Nigeria have a vast landmass. We can channel this excess water, to maybe we put it in a dam, a reservoir, or like a canal to our vast irrigation lands in Nigeria for irrigation purposes. So the purpose and the flooding in Nigeria, we cannot stop flooding because God is the one that brought flooding at first. And it's just excess water. So what we need to do is to manage that water, how to manage it. And there are various ways to manage it, which I believe in the course of the discussion, we'll be talking about that. But as a starter, we have to know also that Netherlands is just about 2 degrees below mean sea level. Already naturally submerged. So beneath, while Lagos here in Nigeria is 2 degrees above mean sea level. And yet there is equilibrium, stability, hydraulic equilibrium in Netherlands. They created land, Sandfield, the whole nation, and canals all over to be able to drain the water and channel it for use. So flooding, we cannot stop it because we talk about precipitation, water coming down from. We can't stop it, we can't hold it. But how do you manage it? How do you correct it? How do you?
Advantage of it.
Yes, that is what we are going to talk about. But to stop it, we can't stop it. We can't stop rain from falling. We need the rain.
All right, but you know, if you can manage the rain or manage the water that falls, then you will not necessarily have flooding,
Yes.
right? So, of course, that term, you know, when a place is flooded or overtaken by water, may not necessarily, you know, become the issue when you manage it effectively. So when there are channels for the water to go through and all of that. But like you said, we'll get into all of that in the conversation. Let's get to Idris Abubakar Mohammed, Special Assistant to the Director General, National Emergency Management Agency. I'd like you to give us the true picture of things at the moment, the states that have been affected by flood this year, and what has been the impact so far.
Thank you very much. Just like Olajide said, flood is a natural phenomenon. It's only when you have floods in nexus with human habitation, it becomes a disaster. And for us, mercifully here in Nigeria, the two agencies that are involved in climate prediction, the NISA and the NIMET, before the onset of the rainy season, they give us these predictions. So it's like we know that floods is going to happen. And the predictions are becoming more accurate and more credible thanks to technology over time. Having received these predictions, NEMA has downscaled the disaster implications of these predictions to every state of the Federation. As of today, NEMA has activated a National Emergency Operations Center, an EOC, at the agency's headquarters. During the brief documentary, I heard that about 10 states are experiencing floods. But by the dashboard, 28 states of Nigeria are already affected by floods. 113 local governments are affected. 429,350 persons are affected by flood. As of yesterday, the closing time, I got this information at the dashboard. It might have changed as we are speaking. 167,481 persons are displaced. 65,762 households are affected. Unfortunately, sadly, 138 lives are lost. Thousands of hectares of farmlands have been inundated by floods. And I'm happy that here we have the Commissioner of Environment for Jigawa State. Most of these issues of floodings are human-induced. Like we always say, if we fail to take good care of our environment, make sure that our drainages are not blocked, make sure that our urban and regional planning authorities do not allocate plots of land on floodplains locations, grant them building permits, we allow free flow of water. This fresh water that has become a disaster in Nigeria is one of the most valuable resources in the world. Nations of the world have gone to war because of fresh water. The Chinese, they diverted the river Yangtze. They resettled more than 300 million populations because they want the arid locations of the country to have water. Here in Nigeria, we're always talking about the inter-basin water transfer from the Congo Basin to the Chad Basin so that Lake Chad can be recharged. But here we are every year, we have multitudes of floods and causing havoc, leading to loss of lives, livelihoods, and damage to infrastructure. I think as the conversation continues, we look at some of these processes, what we have done, where are we, and of course the way forward. That's my take for now.
Now, I would have, anyway, I'll come to you so that we know what the situation is in Jigawa. But at the moment, every year, we talk about this. We still have people who come, maybe not you, maybe somebody else, will come and say, if only we can do this. Next year, we come again, we say, if only we can do this. What is stopping us from doing those things we need to do to put an end to this?
People are, state governments, NEMA, are doing a lot. I'll give an example of Abuja here, FCT, where we are. That this local Goma area, where the floods have been devastating every year. But because of the proactive measures put by the FCT administration, I know a lot of houses that were built on floodplains were removed. Shanties were removed in several parts of the FCT. Jigawa State, I'm happy the commissioner is here. Coincidentally, I'm from Jigawa State. Jigawa State is one of the very proactive states. I know they have desilted the rivers. It could have been worse than what we are observing now. You see, Jigawa State is sitting on a wetland. That wetland extends down to Lake Chad. And recall that not only in Jigawa, in several states of Nigeria, dry season farming is happening. A lot of farming because of these programs that government has put in place to safeguard our national food security. So the side effect is that the soil is already saturated because of these irrigation waters. So when the rain starts falling, the water runs off instead of sinking into the soil. I think the commissioner is in a better position.
So are you saying dry season farming is, has negative impact?
Whatever you do, inadvertently, you create certain complexities that you have to look into and make amends.
All right, let's get to Dr. Nura Ibrahim. Of course, a lot of people would say we want the dry season farming. Looking at, the present realities, we want food, and we also do not want flood. So, but I want you to tell us what's the situation like in Jigawa State, and tell us in details what Jigawa State has been able to do. The Jigawa State government has been able to do to reduce the impact of flooding this year.
I think let me start by commending and appreciating the federal government through NEMA. NIMES, NISA also, because they all send these predictions to us so that we can prepare against most likely what we're going to encounter as far as flooding issue is concerned. So looking at that, we looked at it. The state came up with the Flood State Preparedness Committee that cut across MDEs that are responsible for managing flooding. As rightly said by my friends and colleagues, the pastor and Idris, flooding, you just have to mitigate and then employ adaptation measures for you to get across. So looking at that, we formed that committee. We looked at our flood-prone areas. We look at areas that usually experience maybe flooding, not even as a result of the river flooding. Because Jigawa, we have two things. He rightly said, Jigawa is sitting on a wetland, and not only wetland, but flatland, mind you. We don't have gradient. So this is a big issue. We don't have gradient. So looking at that, the governor ensured that the state acquired these huge amphibious excavators for draining the river, for desilting, as you rightly said. And also, the state formed a technical flood committee for over 1 year in collaboration with the Hadejia Jama'ari River Basin Development. The MD of Hadejia Jama'ari River Basin is the chair, I am the co-chair, and then with various expert engineers and a lot of role within. So that we sit virtually once every month and maybe we can call for an emergency sitting if need be. So this flood committee is always monitoring the river system, trying and see what we can do different, sending warning signs if there are any warning signs. For example, if there are any maybe possible discharges, because we have two major dams, Tiga and this Bagoda dam, and also we have Chala Goji, all in Kano State, mind you. Because what usually happens during the when you have riverine flooding is that you have discharges from these dams that increase the water level. And he's rightly mentioned, Mr. Idris, that most of these are man-made because of the cost for people to farm, to irrigate their farmland. From the entry point of River Hadija, that's a Ringim local government, a location called Debi, to Zorio in Guri local government, where it exits, it entered into Yobe. We have, when we counted, I think by last month, we have more than 400 illegal river bank breakages, just to allow water reach their farmland. So what happened is that whenever you get increase in discharge from these dams or excessive runoffs from rain, those breakages, the water will go through those and flood the farmland, overtake the communities and what have you. That resulted in loss of farmland, loss of lives, properties, infrastructure, and other things. So what the state is doing at that level is that we are now sensitizing the communities. We have gone for advocacy to all the 5 units in Jigawa State, namely Hadeja, Gumel, Kazori, Ringim, and Duse, so that they can call people to order, so that they don't continue illegally breaking these river banks, because it's one of the major factors, one of the major man-made factors. One, as we said, for irrigation purpose, and second, for fishing. What they do is that they will break and they excavate land. Water will flood the area, and after the water has rescinded, then they will just go and
Pick the
harvest the fish. You have not done anything. All you need is just excavate. And you realize a villager will go and harvest 5 million, 6 million naira worth of fish in a year. So it becomes very, very difficult for us. And that's why now the state government is looking at coming out with legislation that will regulate all these man-made activities along the river banks, so that we'll be able at least to address this issue of river flooding. As he rightly said, this year, because we've done a great deal of work along that river bank, for now we have desilted more than 120 kilometers along the river Hadija, and we are continuing. This year, the state is again acquiring 2 more amphibious excavators. So we have 4 at present, 2 from the state, 2 from Hadija Jamari. We are buying another 2 very soon. I think by next month they will arrive. We imported another 2. Then we want to have as many as like 6 to 10, so that we don't have issue of this desilting, so that the river as a natural phenomenon. As I said, Jigawa is on a flat land. When the water comes, as the water is moving, it will be dropping the sediments. So before you know it, it's already silted, and the water will flow its banks. The river will overflow its banks.
Great.
So, Dr. Ibrahim, thank you very much for your opening remarks. I'm sure we'll get back to you to tap into more of what Jigawa is doing. But let me get back to Pastor Bejide here. I don't know what the current flood mitigation measures are, but clearly from knowing that every year we still have to talk about this, it means that something is not quite right. So from where you stand, or maybe at the present seat, maybe you could tell us what are those new strategies that we can explore.
Yes, I'm just so happy for Jigawa, because one of our major problems over the years we have been saying is that the governors, the states are not responding properly. But today you have heard what Jigawa and states they are doing. I think Jigawa, Lagos State, and maybe Rivers now. If other states can be doing such also, it's great. But at this point, I have to just make some demarcations so that we understand this scenario of flood is multi-sectoral. As an agency, I'm happy we have 3 people here. NISA, we predict a forecast of this is how the flood will look like this year. Then from there, after the flooding, next we have the governors, the state governors, their own, because we send all these forecasts to them, to all states of the Federation. That's our duty. Now they have to work on it. Then send to NEMA. NEMA also now use it to prepare their own, response to such things. So that's the link together. But for NISA specifically, there are 5 major things we do. 5 major things. And by statutory, we have this mandate, and we call it the NISA way. What do I mean by NISA way? I mean NIHSA. That's our acronym, Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency. And by that also, we carry out our function in a NISA way. That means NIHSA. What is the N for? I mean, notation of flood-prone areas nationwide. And we do that by our annual flood outlook that we call AFO. Every state, I'm happy that the Honorable Commissioner also attests to that. We send it out maybe around February. NEMA also, we are stakeholders. We work together hand in hand. So that is the first thing. So it gives you an outlook of how the flood will be this year. Like for example, this year we have predicted already that by the time where we are in July to September, 135 local government areas will be flooded, and with highly flooded areas. Then 121 local government moderately flooded. The prediction, the forecast is out already since February, March. Every year we do that. That is notation of flood areas. Then the I is what? Instrumentation. We have monitoring wells all over the country. Not as much as we're supposed to have because of the paucity of funds, but in major areas. We have 2 major areas coming into Nigeria, River Niger and River Benue. At the entrance into the country, River Benue from Cameroon, we have a monitoring station there, telemetric and also staff gauge. And also River Niger coming up. River Niger, by the way, is a transboundary river. It cut across about 13 countries before entering into Nigeria. Nigeria is the last port. Everything coming from those 13 countries end up in Nigeria. From Cameroon also, all the water coming up from there end up in Nigeria. So that's why Nigeria as a whole, as a country, is a receiver. So that's why the issue of flood, we have to take it seriously and try to mitigate it. So that's why we do instrumentation. We have our instruments and monitoring station all over. Then the age, we have an LD, partnership and collaborations, like we are having here now. NEMA, perfect collaboration. NIMET, the same. State governors, the same. Then the S, sensitization. We have zonal offices all over also the country, 8 zonal offices. So from the headquarters in Abuja and our zonal offices, we go on sensitization. And finally, the A is alerts. So, and this alert, we do it in 2 ways, maybe issue a red alert and then flood alert. Yesterday, the DG, Architect Nura Ibrahim, issued an alert to the nation that there is probable flooding is coming because the water coming from River Niger is already in Niger, and they have told us. So we have issued an alert to Kanji Dam and all the dam operators to release their water so that to be able to receive the water coming. So these are ways NISA is working. And if other sectors also do their own, like Jigawa now and other states, I believe
Will not have
flooding will not be a major disaster issue.
Okay,
in Nigeria.
Pastor Bejide, you talked about Nigeria being the receiver, but we know that water can be static. So when we receive, what happens?
Yes. Also, all these waters, either by precipitation or from the rivers, they end up in the ocean. As far as Nigeria is concerned, Atlantic Ocean. So they go down. The two rivers meet at Lokoja, of course we know, and goes down to the creeks, Bayelsa, Rivers, Delta, these are the, and from there end up in what? In the ocean. So that's why this flooding is more devastating in a river state, Bayelsa, Ebonyi, all those areas, and break into the creeks and enter into the ocean. But and it interests you that the volume of water that we are receiving, either through the river and by precipitation, that's rain, about 80% of it is being lost into the ocean, and also with devastating effect again. But what we are saying that if it's properly channeled and used, instead of losing that water, it will have used it for
When you
many
talk about
other things.
properly channeled and used,
Yes, what
do
I
you
mean by that is that this water is needed. The 19 states of the northern state of the Nigeria now, we are talking about droughts. Because Nigeria, again, let me let you know, we are in the middle of two natural, ecological disaster. One, from the northern part, we have the desertification coming, pressing. And again, we have this ocean surge again, pressing from the southern part. So you can understand the position of Nigeria very well. So we have to be dealing with desertification. We also have to be dealing with ocean surge and also saltwater intrusion. Because people in Bayelsa State, River State, and everything, all those places, everything is salted because from the ocean. So all these things we are dealing with. So that's the position of Nigeria. We are receiving the basin from all the waters, and again, pressing from the north, encroachments, and from the south also pressing the ocean. So if people understand this, the position of Nigeria like this, then all this water, channelization, dam, every year we talk about Lagdo Dam in Cameroon being released, causing flood. And yes, we should have built a buffer dam. And from what I know, I learned that almost about 33 years ago, 35 years ago, that dam have been proposed. But up till now, it has not been built. It has been a very good, we call it buffer dam, to receive the water.
So is it a case of Nigeria knowing the solution to this problem and just refusing to do it?
Yeah, well, I would say, again, everything also boils down to economic state of a nation and things like that, to be able to have enough money to do this. But I think the present government is also not addressing that now.
That brings me to the NEMA representative, Idris Abubakar Mohammed. It looks like whenever we prepare for flood, we prepare for response of NEMA. So we know that there's going to be a disaster. Instead of having to deal with the issue so we don't have a disaster, we prepare for disaster instead. So I'd like you to give us a statistics of, what Nigeria has spent so far in having to manage the disaster as a result of flood in the past years. Because from what Pastor Bejide has said, I'm thinking that, if all of that money was channeled into building a dam, we would not be dealing with a disaster, which also costs money and is costing lives. What's your take on that?
Thank you very much. Every time we are discussing floods, like Pastor has said, I record the lamentations of the ancient marina. Water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Water is a valuable resource. On your question, the disaster management architecture for Nigeria is structured in line with the federal political setting of Nigeria. The law that set up NEMA also made provision for state emergency management agencies at the state level, local emergency management committees. So disaster management is cross-cutting, is all-inclusive. States, local government, the federal government, everybody must do his bits We are just praising Jigawa State. So there are certain things that are structural, just like clearing the drainage basins, the drains, desilting the rivers. Most of our rivers and the dam reservoirs are heavily silted. They are built some 30, 40 years ago. I recall the first earth dam built in Nigeria was in Kano State, the Birnin Kudu Dam, where I attended my secondary school. We have the Kainji Dam, we have the Tiga Dam, we have a lot of dams, as part of our agricultural revolution over the years. But most of these dams are heavily silted. They are full of water, sand, so to say. So as the rain comes in, rains will always happen. Every year rain will fall, definitely. But you see, over the years, population of Nigeria, early independence period was about 40 million. Now we are more than 200 million. So people must build houses. Infrastructure is expanding. People must farm so that we can feed the population. So a lot of human activities, which are definitely going to impact on the environment. I asked an engineer during our humanitarian coordination forum one time from the Ministry of Agriculture. And he told me that desilting a dam, the reservoir of a dam, because the dam is a structure, then the body of water is a reservoir. Desilting a reservoir is as costly as building a new dam and a reservoir. So these are capital-intensive things. But that notwithstanding, states, local governments, NEMA, we are doing a lot with various degrees of successes. States have different capacities. States like Jigawa, like Lagos State, they are doing so much. FCT here, they are doing so much to mitigate these impacts of flooding. But like we always say, floods will always happen. It's only when you have a nexus with human habitation that it becomes a disaster. The rain recharge our underground water systems. 2018, I was in Patigi in Kwara State. Then we went for an assessment because half of the community was inundated. Then we met a fishmonger by the river banks, the river Niger. Left-hand side is Kwara State, right-hand side is Niger State. And he said, oh, we love the floods. Anytime the water recedes, we catch a lot of fishes. Just like the commissioner said, people impound water, and during the dry season, a lot of fishes. And as the water is receding, they are planting their crops. So even without irrigation, you see a lot of tomatoes, onions, mention them. They are from that soil moisture. So the flood itself is not all doom and gloom, of course. But for lives to be lost, it's definitely disheartening, and we have to rejig our processes of mitigating these floods so that we safeguard our national
Thank you, Idris Mohammed. Thank you very much for those comments. We are trying to find a solution, and one wonders, yes, those in the studio, others in the studio are saying that Jigawa is doing something right this year. I'm just wondering, when NISA, or even NEMA for that matter, engages states, what is it that you discuss that Jigawa is probably doing that others are not doing, which is why we still have the level of flooding that we have? Because if every state complies with the technical guidelines that they are given, perhaps we'll have it mitigated to an extent.
Yeah, I cannot really speak for other states. It's quite difficult.
But when you are there,
for other states, I understand, but I can't speak for my state. I think it largely depends on how responsive the government is, maybe how the government is prioritizing issues. Because at present, when the present governor came in, he decided now, I think from next month, we'll start having what we call sector meeting. Because he prioritized environment, looking at climate change as a very, very issue that concerns the globe. So he feels that we need to be discussing monthly so that we can have better ways of addressing issues of climate change, looking at both extremes. As Pastor said, looking at maybe drought, desertification, looking at the flooding on the other side, looking at the livelihood lost, even looking at the insecurity attached to the climate change issue, because people need to migrate. You know, if you are in a habitat that will no longer support food production, you have to move, and that's what is even causing all this issue of farmers and herdsmen, because there is no grasses for the animals to feed, so they have to move southwards. So all these are issues that we need to look at holistically. As I said earlier, it all depends on the government. It's state government specific. Some look at maybe environment, climate change, not really as an issue. You know, some will focus more on health, education, agriculture, forgetting that, you know, environment is all encompassing, because you have to have at least a very good prevailing environment for all these things to happen. Because we are talking about sustainable land management, we are talking about, you know, extension services, we are talking about even the land to cultivate. When you have flooding, as he rightly said, if you don't reclaim the land, if the water do not recede, what do? You can virtually do nothing. So all these are efforts that you need to do. Don't forget about the issues of land degradation, on the other hand, be it from erosion, be it from desertification, be it from many other sources. How do you reclaim this land? How do you make use of this land so that this land becomes productive? Not a bad omen to the people. So, as you rightly said, and that is the reason why, when His Excellency came in, the new Governor Malan Umar Alejinamadi, he ensured that he looked at things holistically. He's not forgetting other sectors, quite okay, we're doing great in other sectors, health and other sectors, but environment, he feels that this time around, we have to have a change, a paradigm shift. Let me say this. Initially, even as a commissioner, when they're allocating portfolios, when they send you the environment, they will just put, it's a place that nobody look at. Because what is an environment? You know? Is it not tree planting? That's all people think about. Environment is just about trees and nothing. Maybe at most, as he rightly said, maybe the silting of the culvert and stuff like that, and then monthly environmental sanitation and things, and that's all. But they don't know environment has gone beyond that. It's a multifaceted discipline that, you know, deals with a lot of things. In fact, as we're talking about now, what the governor is looking at is trying to see how we can, you know, continue to build capacity in that sector, and again employ more hands, because when we give him the statistics, he proud. When I came in, there was no even a unit, not talk of Department of Climate Change, in spite of its importance, and that we have to create. You know, we have to build this the capacity of the people. People have to understand that this is where the world is going, and this is what is happening. So that's why I said it's usually state specific. And if I can, maybe, I'm sure NEMA and NISA, they are doing that. I think the Governors Forum is a very, very important platform to discuss or to bring this conversation. Because they are all there, they meet regularly. So anything that maybe needs the attention of the governors will be taken there. And they will have a kind of tracking device where they will be showing the governors, this is how you are doing. This is how your state is doing as far as fraud is concerned. So no governor would want a situation where any time there is meeting, he will be told that as far as flood mitigation adaptation measures are concerned, you are lagging behind.
Thank
I
you.
think these are issues that we need to look at.
Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim, for that point. Very important. We hope that we can be able to NISA can take advantage of that platform. But let's get to Pastor Femi Bejide now. When you spoke earlier, you talked about the fact that Netherlands is above water,
Below
water rather, and then Lagos is 2 degrees above water.
Yeah.
But there's a prediction that Lagos is likely going to be submerged in some years from now. Tell us, what are we doing wrong? Because if Netherlands that is below water is not being submerged and Lagos that is above, there's the risk of being submerged. And then looking at the impact of flood at the moment in that state, you want to ask, what is being done wrongly, and how can we correct all of that?
Yes, everything, like I said, and the other discussants also have said, is holistic. Understanding first of what the issue is, like Jigawa State again, there is this proactiveness. If every governor, every state is working like that, this sector is very, very important. Flood every year, then there must be something to be done. Of course, we know what to do, and we have outlined it every time. And some states, like I said, are taking lead. And we have an example in the studio today to say it. Now, the issue also, we have said it a little bit, is the attitude of the people, perception of the people. Okay, lives is one of the major things. If properties are lost, okay, maybe we can get other properties a little bit for them. But life is lost, we can't buy life back. But how can we reduce this? It becomes a great challenge in Nigeria because of attitude. So, okay, this is floodplain. Like in the last time I was at Federal Radio, and they are asking that what is the sensitization level, even in Abuja, FCT, trade more. I say, what do you want us to do more for trade more that have not been done? I say sensitization. There are this natural sensitization by experience. This place was flooded 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year. It will be flooded again this year. You know that. You don't even need somebody to tell you. You know that area will be. So what are you doing about it? In Trademore, for example, in Abuja, what they do, that the people there, they move maybe to other places and their friends and things like that. And after it, they come back again. Why can't they demolish once and for all that place? And this is just FCT here, where we are. So these are the kind of political will to do some things. We are here in FCT some years ago. Everybody is talking Air Rufai. There are ministers before Air Rufai. The law Air Rufai was employing was there already before, not when it came. And he tried to correct some of these things on the floorplane, all these illegal structures, remove it. Everybody was shouting and things like that. So these are the challenges. Now this is the floodplain, move away. They say this is our traditional land. This is our place, our livelihood, we got it from here. So they don't want to move. And why? Because of the gains. And we have had it here. What are the gains? When this excess water comes, it refreshes the land and brings some nutrients. And again, above all, when it receded, there are fishes and everything. No much work, just, like Jigawa, they have said now, up to, so maybe a farmer, maybe 6 million worth. You're a millionaire. Why? Let the water
but for Jigawa, he's saying that that's a challenge, and they're trying to stop that practice.
Yes, but I'm saying that that's the mentality of the people. That's why they don't want to move.
So for a place like Lagos, what do you think the main problem is?
And Lagos also, and like Lagos State, they are trying, they're trying their best, drainages and everything like that. Like we say, this ocean surge. And then, of course, you have heard about all this Lekki area about 20 years ago, where ocean coast, but the landfills, everything. When you are landfilling, you are selling the land exorbitantly, people are building choice houses and they have no problem. But you know that originally, naturally, that's not a land.
So are you saying landfilling is wrong as a practice?
It depends upon the area. Like in a maybe what we call swampy area, if you landfill that place, okay, it's no problem. But ocean line, you are driving the ocean. One day it is going to come back and it wash away all those places. We are seeing even right now. We see the southern part of Asia, a lot of things are happening there. Flood, washing a whole city and everything. Thousands of lives are being lost. This has not happened in Nigeria. Just few lives a little bit. But if you watch what is happening decades ago and now, Nigeria as a country, in regard to flood, and lives are reducing actually. Properties also are reducing. NEMA doing a great job and things like that. But the rate is slow. But these are the challenges I'm saying. One, capital intensive. Two, attitude. Because everything has to do with human. And attitude. Move away. You say, I don't want to move. Okay, move away. Go and stay there. I say, okay. When the government officials everything have gone, they come back.
The question a lot of people raise about moving away is the fact that before they came there in the first instance, why were they not warned or why were they not stopped?
We have our
in terms of urban planning,
early warning system, and we have it in all these areas across the country. When the level is getting higher, and there is going to be likely that.
No, you didn't quite get me, Pastor Bejide. What I'm trying to say is, like, say for example, you talked about the Trademore estate, and you said, well, it's a floodplain. A lot of people would question why that place was actually utilized for that purpose of an estate if it's a floodplain in the first place. So who approved that land?
Yes, that's the problem of urban planning, and also, but now they have approved it. People have built on it. These are reality on ground. But is that the end? No. We can relocate the people. We can move the people. But if they don't want, of course, you see, like the FC minister and Wike, if he comes now tomorrow and says, okay, we are going to demolish this place, people will come to your station NTA and say they are protesting, they are doing this, the governor is bad, and you know that.
Yeah, because the landlord doesn't want to become a tenant.
That wouldn't matter. That wouldn't matter
Exactly.
Because government does not base its actions on what pleases a few.
Yes.
It is on the basis of the common good. What will do the maximum amount of people, the maximum amount of good.
Yes.
So it wouldn't matter if they protest or if a few people
yes,
protest.
I agree with you. That's why I don't want to go there, but I will touch on it a little because on a national scale and another sector, moving away a little bit from water, we know what is happening in Nigeria. When over time, politically, about 16 years after the Obasanjo regime, people say, okay, remove subsidy. It's a scam. Is this? Of course, government came, they pledged that they will remove subsidy. And they voted them. They came into power. They never removed subsidy. Then Buhari also came and said, on that platform, pledge, I will remove subsidy. Civil society say, okay. And he didn't remove it. Then our president came, Tinubu, said, I will remove subsidy. And he came to power now. First day, he said, subsidy is gone. Then we know where we are today. They are saying, no, this again. Okay, say, bring it down, bring it back. So these are things we are talking about. There will be tough time and tough decision to make. We have to accept it and pass through it. It's not easy to go through surgery. The flooding issue in Nigeria is not something that you have to use medicine and tablet for. It's a surgical operation to be faced squarely. And you will feel pain. Well, yes, it's always darkest before dawn. That's what Nigerians have to know.
Yeah, but you see the fear about Nigerians about surgeries, if you do not have the right equipment and all that you require, trained personnel to do the surgery, it may result to death. What's the guarantee we'll survive at the end of the day?
Oh, China have passed through this. America also have passed through all these things, and now they are out of it. Ghana must go. I told you, what is Ghana must go? That bag is not tagged Ghana must go by the manufacturer. It's because that's the bag that was used about 25 years ago when Ghanaians flooded Nigeria. And the government have to make, Shagari have to make that all Ghanaians leave the country. And that's the bag they use. And that's how people name it, Ghana must go. Now, Ghana is good now. Nigerians are going there. Let Nigeria pass through this phase also. We come out of it better.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Bejide. Let's talk about relief. And that will bring me to Idris Abubakar Mohammed. Much as we would want to see a situation where flooding is mitigated, well, it's become the sing-song in Nigeria. Every year we must talk about it. Now that you have noted that 28 states are already impacted by flooding, what has been NEMA's response in all of this?
Thank you very much, sir. You see, not long ago, Mr. President released 42,000 metric tons of assorted grains from our strategic reserves. I think one of very good decisions that gave succor to the people. I was just having a conversation with the Honorable Commissioner before we came here. Just Friday last week, NEMA handed over 51 trucks of assorted food items to the government of Jigawa State. And it coincided with this escalation of the flood disaster. Just yesterday, before I left the office, our head of territorial office in Kano sent a report that there's a need to send additional search and rescue officers from Kano territorial office to Jigawa State. There's a need to deploy mobile water purification equipment to some of these states that are experiencing floods. These are machines that you can take raw water anywhere. It's like a water works on wheels. So anywhere we have people that are affected by disaster, either they are living in camps or they are living among host communities or sources of drinking water are contaminated, we deploy such machines. I personally have worked in several states of Nigeria providing water. There was a time, 2018, I was in Zungeru for 3 months. I was giving the whole of Zungeru potable water. So the Director General NEMA, Zubaida Umar, granted approval. We are moving these machines to Jigawa State and several other states. You see, for now, the northern states are experiencing this escalated flood incidences. Niger Republic is experiencing the same. The floods are swinging back to central states, to southern states. So that's the more reason why we need to do a lot of emergency stockpiling. NEMA is doing that, of course, within our limited resources. And we're expecting state governments to do the same thing, emergency stockpiling of food items, non-food items, temporary shelter for immediate deployment.
How does NEMA distribute relief materials?
We work handed. Our point of entry to every state is the State Emergency Management Agency. We work with the State Emergency Management Agencies. We conduct damage and loss assessments if there's a disaster incident, which is beyond the capacity of the local government and the states. Like I said, disaster management architecture is based on the federal structure of Nigeria. And NEMA will always say that every disaster incident happens in a particular community, in a particular local government, and in a particular state. So the first responders should be in that very community. You don't expect somebody from a state capital or from Abuja to go and conduct search and rescue in case...
But does NEMA monitor? Because there are reports that the relief materials sometimes do not really get to those who need them.
I tell you, for us at NEMA, the mantra is that all our operations were guided by humanity, neutrality, impartiality, and operational independence, the humanitarian principles. Yet, you cannot go to a state and a local government and micromanage their affairs. They know the communities better than you do. They know the people better than you do. Who is the best person you work with than the elected state government officials, the elected local government officials?
But with reports of people not getting, those who need the relief, not getting the relief materials, and the fact that there are also reports that some of these relief materials that should be free are sold, what has NEMA done?
I don't know whether those relief materials are for NEMA or for SEMA or for local emergency management committee, but honestly, on a serious note, I want to assure you that our operations are very credible. When we are deploying relief interventions, we work with the security agencies. We don't just go as NEMA alone. We even need our personal security anyway. So we go with the police, we go with the civil defense, we go with the Red Cross. The state SEMAs, the local emergency management agencies, are added to, like this grain distribution we did. We included the community leaders, the religious leaders, the teachers, the Association of National Union of Teachers, the labor. So I don't know how under even the NUJ, they are here. I have a document here that says, excuse me, I think I can read it. Membership of the committee includes chairman of the local government council, state emergency management agency, traditional rulers, Department of State Services, the Nigeria Police Force, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense, faith-based organizations, that's JNI and CAN, National Union of Local Government Employees, Nigeria Red Cross, women associations, persons with disabilities, youth associations.
That's quite comprehensive.
So under these praying eyes, I wonder how you can divert relief materials.
Anyway, I think it's something we'll talk more about in the course of the program, but that will be after we go on this break. Please stay with us. Right, thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria, where we've been discussing the challenges of flooding and how to mitigate them. But let me stay with you, Special Assistant to the Director General of NEMA. I would like to find out what is the scope, typically, of NEMA's intervention when there is, a disaster. Now we are talking flooding particularly. What's the scope of NEMA's intervention as per your mandate?
Yeah, our interventions are demand-driven. And like I said, the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, at the federal government level, the State Emergency Management Agency at the state level, and the local emergency management committees are responsible for working together with other partners. You see, a lot of people add value to these relief operations we are doing. For us, if there's a disaster in a particular community, we work together with the official of the State Emergency Management Agency. We have 6 zonal offices for NEMA in the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. And we have about 18 operations offices. We have 2 territorial offices in Lagos and Kano, in consideration of the size of the cities, and of course a lot of risks that do exist. So we do damage and loss assessment, then we send to our headquarters, then we make recommendations for relief interventions. We do that. And our interventions have not only given people food, search and rescue, because it's only when somebody is alive that he can eat the rice and beans. We work with the military disaster response units. In every military formation, there's a disaster response unit. So if there's a disaster event, we activate them. We have an MOU with the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense. We have MOU with the Nigeria Police. Because every disaster scene is a potential crime scene. And you need to do crowd control. It's not only floods. We are dealing with several other issues. Recall that up to now, we have the residuals of Boko Haram insurgency in the northeast region. We have banditry in several states of Nigeria. So for us, it's a cocktail of events. Already we have a lot of people that were given relief materials, take care of them. In Benue State, there are a lot of
maximum level of intervention that NEMA can undertake.
You mean in terms of numbers? No. When capacity of states, SEMAs are overwhelmed, We always spot, but of course within limitation of our resources. Like I said, we distributed food items to every state of the Federation, the 42,000 metric tons approved by Mr. President. And of course, based on our resources availability, we do emergency stockpiling in our warehouses so that easily we can deploy temporary shelter, medicals. Like by next week, I'm sure, we're deploying additional support to Jigawa State. Medicals, the water equipment that I mentioned. And in every state, if there is an incident like this, that's the architecture we follow. We complement the efforts of the local governments and the state governments. We work together.
Since you store, some certain things, like you said, medicals under arrest, how does NEMA check validity? What's the guarantee that, as at the time you're distributing, such materials are still valid?
You mean the expiry dates?
Yes,
and what?
yes.
No, we always stockpile things that have a very long
Shelf life.
life.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Like the grains we are talking about, like blankets, temporary shelter. But issues like for core medicine, that is not our purview. But you see, the Ministry of Health is the sector lead if there's a disaster incident.
All right.
So,
all right, thank you, Mr. Idris Abubakar Mohammed. We'll get back to you. I'd like to get to the Commissioner for Environment, Jigawa State now, Dr. Nura Ibrahim. Of course, we've praised you at the beginning of this program. Jigawa State is doing so much, and you have told us what you're doing. But there's a report that this year, so far, 30 people have died as a result of flood. 8,000 have been displaced, over 8,000. 9,379 hectares of land have been submerged. Yes, so we agreed that Jigawa State is, doing so much. But what more do you think Jigawa State should do, to prevent, this kind of occurrence like what's happening this year?
I think before I delve into the question, I don't know where the statistic is coming, because this loss of lives, I can agree with that, but so far we have not recorded a single loss of life this year. We haven't in Jigawa State. As you rightly said, let me go back to the question. I think this year, based on the NISA, NIMET, and also the NEMA, a kind of predictions. So the state ensured that we even went for supplementary budget to ensure that we have enough as far as stockpiling the store of SEMA, food and non-food items, building materials, and what have you. So we have enough as far as that is concerned. And NEMA is coming up with other support of, with food, as he rightly said, about 51 trucks. I think the SEMA is under Special Duties Ministry, yes, in Jigawa State. So they are doing great in terms of support to flood victims and all emergency issues, not only flood, other emergency stuff. So Jigawa is ever ready, based on the predictions given, to respond adequately and sufficiently.
To respond or to attempt to mitigate.
It's nomenclature used.
Because that's the idea.
Yeah.
That's the idea behind the prediction, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, as I said, it's a nomenclature. Whatever you want to put it, it depends on how you want to look at it. So, to ensure that we have this, we have adequate. And that's why, as soon as we have issues, or as soon as we have early warning sign that this particular community is going to be overtaken by flood, you find all the staff there. The SEMA, Environment, Ministry of Works, Health, doing the needful as far as that is concerned. So in Jigawa, it's not like it is happening now, you have to go and sort for approval to get this and done. We already have all these materials, as I said, food and non-food items, as far as NEMA is concerned. And what will surprise you is that, as far as Ministry of Environment is concerned, this year, by April, we've exhausted the budget of 2024. So we have to go also for supplementary. Not only we have increased budget appropriation, but 100% release. And I think this is something that I think the government need to be commended for. And as you rightly said, we have to thank Almighty. At least this year, we don't have issues of riverine flooding. What we have is that flooding in communities that are upland. So the question now is, what happens? So when you go down, you'll understand that a lot of human activities, negative human activities. For example, the government will spend so much money building gutters, but surprisingly, people will be coming and be dumping waste inside the gutters.
And block it.
And block it. And then they will send us, because we are flooded. You will see gutters and everywhere
So
flooded.
that gives a sense that there needs to be awareness on the part of the state government.
Yes,
There
that's
needs to be
what
more
the state
awareness.
government is doing. And that's why we are collaborating with the media.
Okay.
Because you are very important stakeholders in this. Enlightenment, public enlightenment. That's what we've been doing. That's what we are doing.
All right.
Telling people the negative impact of their actions.
Indeed.
Indeed. And at least we are gaining on that ground. You started, it's something that will take long, but we are on it.
Okay.
Another thing I need to say, when you talk about riverine flooding, we only talk of one aspect. What do we do as a permanent measure? His Excellency, when he came in, he employed consultants, they are working. He went to the World Bank through the AgriSal project to ensure that Jigawa is saved from riverine flooding. So they are coming up with the design, and the World Bank through AgriSal project is supporting that process.
All right.
So-
Dr. Nura Ibrahim,
Yes.
just quickly want to read this report to you. Jigawa State Governor Umar Namadi, this was 2 days ago,
Okay.
actually said that over 40,000 people have been affected by flood and destroyed several farm products in the state. The governor also disclosed while receiving the House of Reps Committee on the Ecological Fund during a courtesy visit to the governor in Dutse that the disaster has ravaged 14 local government areas. Namadi explained that according to the reports in the government's disposal, 28 people as a result of flood-related incidents have died. So that's like where I got my statistics from when I said this is the state at this moment.
Yeah.
And what more needs to be done?
Okay.
That's not to discredit the effort
no,
being
no,
put
no,
by
no,
the
no,
state
no,
government
no,
so
no,
far.
no, no.
But we're just saying that despite the measures, it's still ravaging people of that state. It means that more or maybe a different measure needs to be taken to deal with the
And that's
trend.
what we are saying now. We are talking about now public awareness. We are talking, as rightly said, we are now engaging the urban and regional planning to ensure that they don't just allocate, they don't give approvals for, housing anywhere like in flood-prone areas, like maybe reclaim borough pits, because that's what's happening. You have a borough pit inside the town, and people will just start dumping, waste. They will reclaim it, and they will build houses there. What will happen? And this one serves as a natural, a balance system for all these runoffs and water. They drain in there. So what will happen? If this will be flooded. This is exactly what happens in Balangu, in one of the communities in Jigawa State, because the borough pit has been reclaimed, has been filled up, so the water doesn't have anywhere to go. So what the state government is doing now is to deploy a lot of machines who have to be pumping out the water, excess water, outside. So these are the things that we're doing, and the governor realized again now that there is need for any project in the state. It has to come with EIA, environmental impact assessment. I think this is very, very key, and it's very important, because most of the things, when he came, he realized that there are no EIAs. So he called me and said there is need for us to come up with a very excellent EIA for any project. Because, for example, the state government wants to put up township roads. The houses are already built. What do? They fill up, they do the road. Now the road is above, the houses. What happens? The water will not be drained. It will be going inside the houses. So what we are trying to do now, after the year, we want to make sure that we excavate and then we filled with the right borrowed materials. And these are part of the effort the government is again doing.
I do hope that, because the idea is so that people don't die, so that we don't. There is no loss of property, no loss of lives. That we take more steps to preempt rather than respond. That's the whole idea. But let me get to Pastor Bejide. I just wanted to find out the impact of climate change on Nigeria's flooding crisis, and how Nigeria can adapt to this situation.
Okay. The impact of climate change to flooding has been in Nigeria and all over the world devastating. That's why I say that the whole world they are taking the impact of climate change very serious. Very soon, less than a month or so, there will be a global meeting again on environment summit, and
COP29?
Yes, with the issue of climate change. But back home now, it came to Nigeria, because everything boils down with each other's country. In Nigeria, what I want to say also here, when we started, she also tried to note that we have been saying, that is personally for me and for most people have been concerned and wondering why it's such. Say prevention is better than cure. The interplay, the sectoral agency interplays that NEMA deals with the environments and bring it down to NISA. NISA, the information, we translate it into what? Into flood forecasting and things like that, and preventive measures. Then NEMA comes in to respond. Then, okay, if the end is to mitigate, I believe strongly that emphasis should have been placed on prevention. Prevention, that is where the issue, and that's what she raised at the beginning. And it will be worth noting that the Nigeria as a nation seems not to pay emphasis to that, although they do say prevention is better than cure. But NISA prevents. But the institution that prevents, if it's not well funded, then what are we saying? And the institution that is that cures is well funded. Like I said.
So NISA is not well funded?
Yes. What I'm saying here is that, of course, the money given to NEMA judiciously, I follow them, we are partners. Yes, not even enough still to do it, but if such money also, or half of such money have been channeled to an organ that prevents, like now, according to WMO standard, that is World Meteorological Organization, a nation should have about 430 hydrometric stations to measure. NISA have less than 100. Less than 100. When we come to funding, I think NEMA is in excess of tens of billions, where NISA is not even up to $500 million. So you can understand this disparity and things like that. And I also understand, and that's why we are doing all this advocacy. In National Assembly, the new DG now, Architect Nura Ibrahim, engaging the National Assembly, the lawmakers and the executive also to look at the importance NISA plays so that we can increase the funding of NISA. So this has been a major issue, critical. NEMA works with our prediction. The state governments also work on our prediction. And if we are not well funded, we don't give accurate predictions, where do we start?
So it's clear to see why we are, as a nation, reactive.
Yes.
Rather than
well, maybe because they expect NISA to also pray. in
So also what?
Pray in what aspect?
you've told us what you do. You said the notation, instrumentation, whatever, sensitization, and that you are a pastor. So maybe you should pray instead of asking for more money.
Exactly. That is the national, everybody say Nigerian praise, whether in the Muslim faith, Christian faith, exactly. But we also know that faith without works
I think
is dead.
your message is received. Let's take the last couple of minutes to get a closing remark.
Thank you very much. You see, on a serious note, disaster management is everybody's business.
Actually.
And it behoves on the media to support all of us to build well-informed and resilient Nigerian citizens. We must take this issue of disaster management very serious. We must respect the environment. I'll give you an example. If FCT Water Board for one day is having some maintenance issues, I see my neighbors dispatch the women, the children carrying water on their heads. It's because even at the household level, somebody has not envisaged that situations like this can happen. And he doesn't have a container that can sustain him for the next 24 hours to have potable water in his house. That is our attitude. Thank God, NEMA is partnering with 6 federal universities in 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. And they're offering courses, certificate courses, master's degree, PhD in disaster management and development studies. And I think and those centers have now gradually they're becoming repositories of well-informed people that can work in the state emergency management agencies, the NEMA, and several other organizations. So it behoves on us. I've seen video clips ravaging flood waters. Somebody in a bike, just some few years ago, that the local government actually is talking about. Somebody was late, he's driving to the airport. People were stopping him because of the floods. He told the driver to drive in. At the end of the day, he lost his life.
Yeah.
The driver opened the door and escaped. So it behoves on all of us.
So would you now say getting flood insurance would be a way to go going forward?
We promote risk transfer because certain disasters are avoidable. Certain disasters are transferable through insurance. In fact, we are planning to host a seminar on market fires because of the incessant fire outbreaks in our markets. So that we did a pilot program some years ago in Kaduna, the Sheikh Gumi market, where the state government insured the entire market structure, and then traders are to insure their wares as a form of risk transfer. I think we have to build on that.
All right.
Even the culture of insurance in Nigeria is very weak. Some people just go for the third-party insurance for their vehicles, which is very compulsory. So the media must help us to build that well-informed,
That's what we are doing.
that well-informed and resilient Nigerians.
That's what we are doing. We are helping you.
All right, thank you very much, Idris Abubakar Mohammed, Special Assistant to the Director General, National Emergency Management Agency. Thank you for your time and your insights, and of course, we hope that your agency will continue to do the needful. We also appreciate Dr. Nura Ibrahim, Commissioner for Environment, Jigawa State. Thank you so much, and we hope that you sustain the effort and save more people of that state. Pastor Femi Bejide, Director Operational Hydrology, Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency, NISA. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And you need to add praying to your list.
There's no P in NISA.
I think there's only one thing that is missing. We have not spoken about the community participation because it's not government and government all the time.
Yes.
People need to be involved. Community need to participate.
That's why awareness is important.
Yes.
Create awareness,
Yes.
and then the people are carried along.
Yes.
Well,
All right, so that's Good Morning Nigeria this Friday. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Henry John. Enjoy your weekend.
and I'm Victor as well. Say happy weekend.